been one of the loudest voices who didn't care what the effects were or repercussions were. He had to say or speak his truth. And so I like the fact that I would like that, it's important rather that he is not remembered simply because of his activism and his, campaign against the challenges in Nigeria and against the current administration. He must be remembered as one of, the world's finest economists. He was deputy governor of the central bank. He's also said to have been one of the people who created NEPAD. He was also Oxford trained as an economist. He spoke up to 7 languages. He basically, was also said to be one of the major brains behind the African Development Bank group. So there's so much in his portfolio, aside him being a critic of the government. And it's a great thing that, he was able to put aside his, journey through economics and, of course, be a voice. So it's a huge blow. It's a huge loss for those who have continued to speak the truth. And I think someone had posted something that I thought was very, very important. Him saying Dr. Obadiah Melafia has spoken his truth. He can now rest and is probably in a better place. And for me, that was a very, very significant message to put with regard to Dr. Obadiah Melafia. And it's also to encourage everyone who might be shying away from saying what they feel and speaking their truth. Eventually you would still pass, and you're going to go back, you're going to be buried without anything, regardless of how much you think that you can gather, by staying silent, or you can gather by, joining sides with whoever it is that might be the oppressor, in different directions. You will still go back, into the grave without anything. So it's important that you always speak your truth. And always be a voice where there are no voices. So rest in peace to Dr. Obadiah Melafia. And it's just really, really sad.
And our second top trending story today doesn't make us any happier, because it's a video that I watched and screamed and had tears come down my eyes because of what is seen to be, the murder of Nigerians, just like that in the southeastern part of Nigeria. When I took a look at that video, we know that in the southeast, the IPOB have seemed to enforce their heavy hand regarding their concerns to release, to get Nnamdi Kanu to be freed. They declared Ghost Mondays, where they banned anyone from coming out to work, carry out any commercial activity. And even though the IPOB's official statement has been that Ghost Monday has been suspended, we still keep seeing videos and pictures of people's properties being destroyed, the vandalism of property, people who are coming out to simply trade and conduct business because the Ohanese Ndigbo, the southeastern government, have said, come out and do your business. And the IPOB official management or spokesperson has said the sit-at-home order is called off. But regardless, we still keep seeing videos of people being killed, it just seems to be like anarchy so far in the southeast. I remember when there was a video where a school in one of the southeastern states was invaded, students were forced to flee, exams basically disrupted. The official statement that we got, first of all, in that video, the person who was filming said it was IPOB members of IPOB. But later, we got a statement from IPOB, an official statement saying that those people are not IPOB members and any property that was destroyed or any motorcycle that was destroyed will be replaced. So it really makes me wonder why we're seeing what we're seeing now, a video that might be too gruesome for us to share.
Well, so we're going to share the clip, but just quickly point out, that we cannot, completely or 100% verify when that video was made. If it was this weekend, if it was weeks ago, nobody, we're not 100% sure. And also, nobody was actually killed in the video. If you watch the whole length of it, there was some violence, but they didn't kill anyone or shoot anybody. But we're going to play the clip so you can, see exactly what she's describing here, and we'll talk about it when we come back.
They are here. This is
One bring flying for a place, man. Come on, get down. You consider finish. You won't bring.
hey, keep quiet.
Welcome back. And yes, a little shocking and hard to watch, but once again, we cannot verify entirely when that video was made, if it was this week, last week, over the weekend or not. But the main point is that there is some violence, there is, some elements, that are causing chaos in the southeast. IPOB members, ESN members as alleged. I've also seen a few people put out statements saying, oh, these aren't IPOB members or ESN members, that they are government agents and some other nonsense like that. And I've repeatedly said it, that if you're not the ones, then you should be able to identify who they are. It's pretty simple, because it would continue to be said that these are IPOB members, and if you don't have any other proof, to dispel that, then you might as well take the blame. Over and over and over, we've said that they would continue to become worse than the people that they criticize. They will continue to take advantage of the very tiny crumb of power that they've been able to gather over time, and now become the oppressors. And that's what they're doing to their own people in the southeast. Even now becoming worse than the same people that they have criticized for a very, very long time. And immediately, and all of these things are really just a build up to IPOB completely losing every drop of sympathy or support that they had in the southeast. Whoever it is that in the past had said, oh yes, their ways might be a little rough, but we support their cause and we would stay with them. All those people and those numbers are dropping every second. So at some point they would now become, or they wouldn't have the support that they think that they have in the southeast. The narrative has always been that people sit at home on Mondays because of fear and because they don't want their goods to be damaged. And, there would be more and more of that. There's going to be a point where people would, completely say, we no longer are going to be sitting at home or no longer care about whatever it is that the IPOB is fighting for. We're not, a part of them, and we have the rights as Igbo people to do our business on Monday mornings or do our business all through Mondays, and IPOB will not tell me to sit at home. And that time is coming very, very soon. I'm not sure what the Southeast is like this morning, if there's people who are sitting at home or not, but that sympathy is steadily, depleting, and very soon it will be completely zero. So best of luck to them. First of all, their campaign or their sit at home to get Nnamdi Kanu released is not going to work, obviously. And I'm sure that they are not that stupid that they cannot tell that it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. And then second, the whole campaign of no election in Biafra land and some of all of that, that also hasn't helped their cause in any way, because you eventually would have less people coming to vote. The election would be won by somebody, regardless of what you do. Somebody is going to win that election. And, sadly, it may not be a person that is in your favor either. So that also hasn't worked. I'm not sure where this thinking is coming from or why they're so easily, pushed in that direction. But good luck to them. And we'll see how this eventually plays out. Nobody wins with violence. That's the truth, regardless of how you want to do it. If you cannot convince the people... And I think some people have even said in the past, that, yes, the electoral process might be flawed somehow, some way. But there's also that opportunity for you to be able to push a candidate in the councillorship, level, in the local government level, in the State House of Assembly level. Push a candidate that you think believes in your cause. Get people to get registered to vote. Get people, get those numbers up. If you believe that you have those numbers, then be able to push forward candidates and people will vote for them. But when you completely are violent against elections, you're deceiving yourself and you eventually lose both ways at the end. But anyway, that's from the Southeast.
Our next top trending story. This one really was the subject of controversy, talk and debate all through the weekend, even till now. And that's because we've had lots of discussions regarding the Central Bank of Nigeria and the actions it's been taking, suspending certain operators in Nigeria's financial markets. But this time around, what's happened is that Aboki FX has announced that it has temporarily suspended publishing exchange rates in Nigeria. He put out a press statement on Friday announcing this. And this came just hours after the Central Bank of Nigeria accused Aboki FX, which is a website that basically collates black market exchange rates in Nigeria, of illegally trading Forex. Now, the alleged owner of this Aboki FX is Oniwinde Adedotun. CBN's governor, Godwin Emefiele, alleged that this man is a Nigerian living in England, that they would track him down and, they will not allow him to continue killing the economy. Because according to what the central bank is saying, is that this Mr. Adedotun gets Naira notes and uses it to purchase dollars and then takes a position, changes the rates over a given period of time, sells the dollars and make a profit, and that this is a completely illegal activity, it is unacceptable, and that the Central Bank of Nigeria will track them down. They're basically saying, what the central bank is saying is that Mr. Oniwinde is an illegal Forex dealer who directly benefits from the rates that are quoted daily on the Aboki FX website. But they responded to this almost immediately, saying that, first of all, that the allegations against the director is unconfirmed and that they do not trade in FX. They simply published the rates. This is what they said in the press statement that they released. They simply went on to say that they do, quote and unquote, we at Aboki FX do not trade in FX, neither do we manipulate parallel market rates, and that they only simply collate information and display it on their platforms daily. They say that their staff go into the market, gather the rates, as all the BDCs in the country, have their rates displayed. And it's just really been a lot regarding this, because we know that the value of the Naira really seems to be depreciating regarding the rates that we've seen. We've discussed this many times on the breakfast. The Naira selling at 500, as much as 570. People even predicting that it will sell at 600 Naira by the end of the week to $1. So the central bank now is saying that it's the rates that Aboki FX is publishing that is responsible for what the market is saying. But in their defense, they simply collect the rates from the black market and publish it and have no influence whatsoever. But that really is what's on the table. Yeah, and
the central bank governor, aside the controversy concerning, whether Aboki FX is responsible or not, he also did some very controversial things over the weekend, asking that they should come out and fight, and sounding very, very, very unprofessional for a CBN governor. Those are some of the things that also, made conversations across the weekend. He completely lost his demeanor for a person at that level to be speaking like that. So there is that. And then second, does Aboki FX trade, or influence the parallel market rates or not? I'm looking forward to what the next couple of days would show, if they would be able to actually show proof that Aboki FX owner has really been trading or not. The arguments over the weekend were mostly about how much a blog is able to influence the Nigeria's parallel markets. In what way and people were equating it to saying, maybe it's the same way, livescores.com or UEFA can ban livescores.com because they put out, game results over the weekend where Arsenal lost, or Arsenal can be angry with livescores because they put out game figures showing that they lost the game. That was just on a lighter note. So the conversation would really be how important is Aboki FX with regards to parallel market, but it's also important to note that it's not just Aboki FX that does this market review and putting out figures on their website. Nairametrics also does the same thing. There's a couple of other websites that put out.
In fact, a new one, was created over the weekend immediately after Aboki FX announced the suspension.
There's many of them that do the same thing. So there might be something that we do not know that makes Godwin Emefiele so upset with Aboki FX in particular. Have they completely shut down every website that is putting out figures on on online, and how relevant really is, Audu or Abuki FX to Audu or Kashmir or Ismail in, any junction across the road that is selling dollars? Does he go online to check first before he knows what to trade? I believe that these guys call each other in different parts of the country and say, what figure are we trading with today? They don't necessarily have to go online and see what Abuki FX tells them to, what figure it puts there. But we'll see. I think with time, in the next couple of days, we would be able to see if this is genuine or not. One thing, finally, Abuki FX did say was, let's see what the next week brings. If this would really affect the price, if shutting down their website or them stopping to post their figures will affect the exchange rate or not. And if it doesn't, then obviously, the central bank has once again gotten it wrong with these knee-jerk reactions to trying to save the Naira from falling.
Yes, those are our 3 top trending stories this morning for you. We'll take a break here and come back to discuss the stories that are making headlines across Nigeria. Stay with us.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Welcome back to The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. It's now time to take a look at the stories making headlines across Nigeria on Off the Press. Let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. It says federal government loses billions in ports revenue over stalled boat service contracts. NPA fails to engage new firms after Intel's row. Authority has no capacity to provide service. The matter is in court, says NPA, and findings show that at least 58 billion naira was lost in 12 months. State assemblies will block FIRS move to amend VAT law, Akeredolu vows. Gunmen kill 3 policemen in Onitsha. Set police van on fire. Buhari directs incorporation of NNPC Limited, constitutes board. 2023, North won't play second fiddle. That's according to the NEF. Students shot dead. Travelers abducted in Imo. Bandits kill 11 in Sokoto, Kebbi. What town planners should do to stop flooding in cities and towns?
All right, now to the Punch newspapers. Value-added tax by states, a joke comment. Masari under fire. Akeredolu says FIRS planned amendment dead on arrival. It says VAT collection battle test for Nigeria's democracy. Lagos tells Katsina governor. And also free money has made states lazy. Pandef replies Masari on his comments. More states will support us to kill FIRS planned amendment. Akeredolu also is speaking. Also on the Punch. Continuation of strike by doctors, contemptuous, says Ngige. Nigerian politicians in one party, says Oni, as it begins 7-day seclusion. NDLEA arrests pregnant woman and fake soldier, stop Canada-Australia-bound drugs. Middlebelt Forum carpets Abuja hospitals over May Lafia's death. And also federal government may bar unvaccinated Nigerians from government facilities. Assembly Speaker fumes as gunmen storm Kogi Church service, kill guard, kidnap ex-provost, pastor and worshipper. And a few others. Customers scam banks with fake visas and tickets for Forex. North has the votes, won't accept second position in 2023, says NEF. And Nigeria's monthly trade in Bitcoin rises to $44 million. I think that's all we'll stop on the Punch.
On the Guardian newspaper, manufacturers' demand for Forex nears $2 billion amid scarcity and weak naira. Middle-class Nigerians shop for stable dollar as FX crisis continues. Naira in moment of decision trades at 570 naira to $1. 11 bandits killed, 3 victims rescued in Kogi State. Resident doctors continue strike, appeal against court's ruling. Don't rubbish yourself in 2023, PGF DG advises Jonathan. 2023, Tinubu is our southern Capone in APC, says Akeredolu. And lastly, on The Guardian, gunmen on the rampage in Southeast kill 3 policemen, touch INEC office, disperse political meeting. Okay, seems there are more updates on that story regarding the death of 3 policemen and the touching of an INEC office. And the writers say police intensify efforts to arrest suspected killers of policemen in Onitsha. Court shuts down in Imo as lawyers protest killing of spokesman. 26 security officials, 11 others killed by non-state actors in 2 weeks.
All right, now moving to the Daily Independent. Manufacturers groan, shut down production lines. And that's with regards to Forex scarcity. Worried dollar may exchange for 700 by December. Say Forex situation has become a major driver of inflation. May cause job losses, higher poverty, and increased insecurity. Diplomats assault. Nigeria shies away from joining issues with Indonesia. And also telcos may taper off 3G, 4G deployment as 5G race begins. Also on the Daily Independent, gunmen attack political meeting, threaten to stop 2023 poll in Enugu. Buhari directs incorporation of NNPC Limited, appoints Ararume board chairman. Middlebelt Forum alleges foul play in May Lafia's death. And also Southern governor's position may, after PDP, I'm not sure what this is, it doesn't make, may alter, I beg your pardon. Southern governor's position may alter PDP's zoning arrangement. We've moved out election materials before Enugu office fire, says INEC. That's all we will take on the Daily Independent. Good morning, Mr. Kolawole. Thanks for joining us once again.
Good morning, my brother.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We probably should start with the death of Obadiah May-Lafia, former Deputy Governor of the CBN.
Honestly speaking, when I heard about his death, it was a shocking experience for me. I felt highly rattled and worried I was also confused. Here is a man, one of the best of us. PhD, I think, from Oxford or Cambridge, and been a deputy governor of the CBN, had worked in African Development Bank. That is a man who will be very useful to us as a nation in finding solutions to the economic crisis that we have in our hands. For him to die, this kind of very cheap death, belittles all of us as our people. And then when you marry his death with the death of Yinka Oduma King, with the death of Dr. Junaid Muhammad, and some of these other very critical critics of government, you begin to wonder what is happening. Would it be some untoward circumstances that has led to their death? Because sometimes in some other climes, people don't need to put a gun in your head before they kill you. Sometimes pressures are mounted on you. The security agencies will harass you. They will block your sources of income. They will restrict your movement. And by the time they pile all sorts of pressures on you, the possibilities are that you develop a high blood pressure, and then you have a heart attack, and then you die. Up till now, too, nobody has given us any development with regards to the killing of Showore's brother. My fear is that, and I pray that what we have in our hands with regard to the death of some of these government critics is not state terrorism that is at play. But let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's see what the Oxford report would reveal, and let's use this opportunity to share our condolences to the families of Dr. Melafia, to the people of Southern Kaduna, and all the progressive elements in this country with whom he has teamed with to give us a better Nigeria.
Okay, Mr. Kolawole. One of the stories that have made the rounds across the paper is a security situation in the southeast. This one says, gunmen attack political meeting, threaten to stop 2023 poll in Enugu. We saw that story on the Daily Independent. And also, when we look at the Punch newspaper, the story is also there as well. But we played a video earlier on the breakfast this morning showing that disruption of a political meeting. And the news is saying that these people are probably members of the IPOB, but we don't have that in good authority. But what really is your commentary regarding what's happening in southeastern Nigeria at the moment, regarding how far IPOB seem to be going and the violence in that region?
Well, it will be presumptuous to say that it is IPOB. There are all sorts of non-state actors in the country today who are feeling the impact of the injustice that the APC, the PDP, and the entire ruling class have inflicted on all of us. To the best of my knowledge, IPOB has never owned up to any of the killings that are taking place in the southeast. We have only been making guesses, assumptions, and presuming that these things are coming from IPOB. And even if it is coming from IPOB, the violence begets violence. Nobody has monopoly of violence. When you vow that you are going to deal with them in the language that they understand, when you say they are a mere dot in the circle, when you say, look, deal with them ruthlessly, and that's coming from very, very high quarters and all that, you should expect a reaction from the people that you are dealing with in a very, very ruthless manner. I have said it time without number. The security people have no solution to what is happening in the southeast, or if it is even the IPOB that is behind it. They have no solution to that campaign. Military solution, security solution, killings and maiming of innocent people in the southeast will not be a solution. We have tried that in the past. You remember when there was crisis in the Niger Delta, all the arsenals of the Nigerian military were deployed to the Niger Delta. Were they able to subdue the ragtag army that was assembled by Tompolo, that was assembled by Asari Tokubo? The answer is no. simply because war is won in the heart of men. It is not a weapon that you carry that determines whether you win a war or a struggle. It is your determination to be free, your determination to liberate yourself. It's your determination to say no to injustice. Look at what has happened in Afghanistan. Americans were there, the Europeans were there, the Russians were there, and the ragtag Taliban army defeated the American army and sent them packing in body bags and all that. It is for this reason we are saying, look, let us find a solution, a political solution to what is happening in the Southeast. Let's know what the grievances of the Igbos are, the IPOBs are, and all the other disgruntled elements in the Southeast. Let's bring them to the round table. And will even be more or better if we organize a referendum in the Southeast and find, or even all over Nigeria, to determine what direction or whom these people want to be associated with, rather than destroy them, describing them as a dot in the circle. Application of sledgehammer to what is happening in the Southeast will not be a solution. And I have been saying it out without number. I've also written in the newspapers that, look, the people in the houses have genuine grievances that we should address, and that we should not use a sledgehammer to kill a mosquito. No. I've also said it, that the security people appear not to be giving the executive arm of government the right advice. Why do I say this? When crisis or when situation degenerates to the level in which it's degenerating, like it is in the Southeast today, the security men are always the first casualties.
All right, Mr. Kolawole.
When the society begins to unravel and distinguish, it is the army, it is the police, it is the soldier, it is the civil defense that will first disintegrate.
Yeah, Mr. Kolawole, let's quickly also bring in other...
And that is the reason why you see now, soldiers are being killed, policemen are being killed, and what have you.
Mr. Kolawole, can you hear us?
They should have the courage to advise the executive arm of government on the need to apply, on the need to use civil means to solve the problem in the Southeast.
All right, Mr. Kolawole, let's move away from the Southeast and then talk a little on the value-added tax controversy, which has continued. Katsina State Governor has come under criticism from Rotimi Akeredolu and a few others, including the Lagos State Governor, concerning his views on value-added tax. Where do you see this going? And, the FIRS also seeking help from the National Assembly. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, the FIRS move is surprising to me, simply because you don't change the rules in the middle of the game. Now that the court has made a ruling, and the ruling is not in your favor, you are now rushing the bill to the National Assembly to make FIRS the sole collector of VAT. That won't work. Nobody is going to allow that to take place because you are simply changing the rules in the middle of the game. The injustice with regards to VAT has been going on for too long. And thank God for Governor Wike, who has had the courage to approach the court. And that is a civil way to handle the situation. And the court has ruled in his favor. The onus lies on the federal government and the FIRS to pay the rulings of the court and allow the state to collect VAT, and then they pay a percentage to the federal government, also the federal revenue. Look at what is happening in a place like Lagos, for example. All the facilities in Lagos, virtually all the tribes in Nigeria are here. When you also go to a place like Rivers, Port Harcourt, and other, virtually all the tribes are there. And then the facilities there are being run down. The federal government is not giving them any special concession like Abuja as regards how to handle the influx of people into some of these places. So how do they do it? When VAT comes in, you take all of the VAT and then distribute it in an inequitable manner, and then leave these people, these states to be deteriorating. It won't do. And when people like Masari begin to talk the way they are talking, and then Baba Ahmed begin to talk the way they are talking, it means that they know that they are perpetrating injustice. And they want to hold on to the unmerited advantage that they have over the rest of the country. And when they also speak the way and manner they speak, they are believing that they have the monopoly of violence, that they can always ride the rough shot over the rest of us as a nation. That is not going to hold. It is not population. It is like I also said earlier, it's not the weapon that you carry that will make you subdue the other tribes in Nigeria. If the other tribes in Nigeria say, look, we're not going to take any of this, there's nothing you can do. What is the population of Israel? When you compare with the Arab neighbor who surround them, have the Arabs in their millions been able to subdue the 8 million Israelis that they have been fighting over the ages? So the North and people like Masari and Baba Ahmed should stop provoking and stoking the fire of war and by beating the drum of war that they are beating with regards to all the unmerited advantage that a section of the country has been getting over the years. Look at the petroleum industry bill. 30% of what you earn is going to be used to start prospecting for oil in an arid region that is not even likely to be able to produce oil. Because they're searching for oil in the north now for the past 30 years. And we have not been able to find anyone in commercial quantity. And you are here marking whopping 30% to be prospecting for oil in the north. You didn't here mark 30% to clean up Ogoniland, to clean up all the places where oil has polluted and all that. I am convinced that the South, the state governors, and then the Southern states will win this war with regards to VAT. If you say you don't want to alcohol sold in your area, then don't take the money, the VAT that comes from alcohol.
The headline on the Daily Independent is about forex scarcity, and it's talking about how this is affecting manufacturers, saying some of them are shutting down their production line, and that people are worried that by December, Naira to the dollar will be about 700 Naira to 1,000 Naira to a dollar. I want us to analyze this vis-a-vis what the CBN governor has said about Aboki FX and platforms that he says are trading in illegal FX. Where do you think the problem might be coming from? Is it from these people who are publishing rates that are seen on the black market? Or do you think the federal government and the CBN should have had a tighter grip of the situation before it deteriorates this way?
Honestly speaking, Mr. Emefele's understanding of the crisis in our hand is very, very shocking to me. The people who are doing this Aboki FX and all that, what do? They merely publish the rate at which the CBN sells foreign exchange and what is obtainable in the open or the so-called popular black market. What is wrong with that? The CBN has in the past been making money forex directly available to some of these BDCs to sell in the open market. We have not been able to control that area. In fact, it can be described as a legalized, as a normal business for anybody to do in this country. So why are you raising hues and cries? Part of the challenges that we have with foreign exchange in this country is coming directly from the CBN. The little that they have, the insiders in there, the directors we allocate to their friends, to their companies and all that, who will take it to the black market and sell it and make money at exorbitant rates without doing anything. You remember former Emir of Kano, Sanusi had raised this issue before. That some people don't do anything. All that they do is to apply to the CBN for forex, and the forex is made available to them. And then after some time, when the price have gone up, they take it to the black market and sell and become millionaire overnight. That is the area that the CBN should be looking at, and not Aboki FX. Furthermore, here is a country that is not producing anything. All the industries are shut down. Oil is no longer selling in the international market. Is it not what you produce and you sell internationally that will bring you foreign exchange? What is Nigeria selling internationally now? Nothing. We're virtually importing everything, including toothpick. And we expect the Naira to be strong. More importantly, it would appear to me that history is repeating itself. When President Muhammadu Buhari was the military head of state between 1983 and 85 and all that, this was how the Naira collapsed. Because it doesn't appear to me that he understands how to manage an economy. My father was a casualty of what happened at that period in time. He was doing very good business with Italians, with Germans and all that. in the area of textile and building materials.
All right, Mr. Kolawole.
Immediately, the foreign exchange was destroyed and the Naira collapsed at that period in time and all that. Both the foreign partners that my father used to deal with, they refused to deal with him anymore because it was difficult to transfer money to those foreign partners in those days because the foreign exchange was even not available in the country. And there are all sorts of restrictions in that area.
All right, Mr. Kolawole, I think we'll have to wrap up here. Thank you very much for your analysis as always on Mondays, and we wish you a very interesting week ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
We are in serious trouble. Go and write it down. Very soon the Naira will be like the Zimbabwe dollar. It will be like the former Ghana setting, in which you need millions of Naira to buy ordinary tomatoes.
All right. That's where we will be wrapping up. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be telling you things that happened on this day in history many years ago. I'm going back to the year 2003 in the Maldives.
And I'm going back to the year 2007 in the US, where there was a massive protest against racial injustice. Stay with us.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
And welcome once again to the breakfast here on Plus TV Africa. Now let's go back in history to the year 2003 in the Maldives, where on this day civil unrest broke out across the country after a prisoner was killed in one of their prisons. It was a 19-year-old prisoner called Hassan Evan, who was, well, unlawfully killed by correctional officers in the prison. It had started a day before when prisoners on two separate cells were having issues with each other and were being violent at each other, throwing items between their cells. Eventually, of course, a report was made. The police officers or the correctional officers came to Evan's prison, or Evan's cell rather, with a list of those who apparently had been causing trouble. His name was not on that list, at first, but eventually, they came with a list to take out people from the cell. They came the first time, took out a few people, and then came the second time with a new list that apparently had his name on it. But since he, had originally said that he wasn't a part of the people who was causing trouble, he refused to come out. After, a little bit of cajoling, he eventually stepped out of his prison. And then, few minutes afterwards, because of course he continued to say that he wasn't a part of those who were causing unrest or who were throwing items between cells, then the police officers attacked him and, beat him until he was eventually dead. That then caused an unrest in the prison. More correctional officers were sent in. 3 prisoners were shot dead. About 17 of them were injured while they were trying to calm the unrest in the prison. And then the news of his death then spread, across the city. And then, it turned out into a whole city-wide protest against his killing in Maldives. It lasted, I think, the whole day. It started around 1100 hours on the 20th of September 2003 and spread across the whole city until it eventually was calmed down a few days later. But that basically was the day that Hassan Evans, was killed at the Mafushi prison in the Maldives.
Interesting story. This was really big at that time, 2003, when they even interviewed some people. They said a civil unrest was unheard of in where they were. It was not something they had done, but because of the fact that a teenager had been allegedly killed, he had been in prison for drug offenses, but at the end of the day, the president of the country had to set up a presidential commission to investigate the death of, this young man. But people really complained that many important parts of the events and the incidents was actually omitted from the report, and really,
Yeah, and also the Maldives is not known for civil unrest or for rioting. It's known as a travel destination. That's what most people see it as. And they have a lot of good, publicity. To invite people, and tourists to always visit the Maldives. It's one of the places, if you ask any random person, your top 10 travel destinations, most people will mention the Maldives, mostly because of the publicity that it has gotten. And so reading about civil unrest and the death of a prisoner and such level of brutality, is really, really shocking compared to what any other person would think when they hear of the Maldives.
And compared to what other people would think of other countries in Africa, for instance, regarding the level of violence we see, prison breaks and all of that. Yeah. So it's good that, generally they have that reputation for being a peace-loving country. Today in history, 2007, it was a very, important day in the history of the U.S., similar to what happened in the Maldives, also like a civil unrest or like a civil rights movement. So what happened was this black guy had gone to ask a white guy if he could sit under a tree, or if, this was just for whites only, just to let you know the level of racial segregation, in the U.S. And this was 2007. He went on to say, oh, can I sit under the tree? And there was a scuffle there. And the next day, they found nooses on the tree. For the Black Americans, the nooses was, very symbolic, because when, the slave trade really gave way, lynching, violence against Black people became, one of the ways that they tried to enforce control, by the whites over the Blacks. So back then, when you see a noose outside your house, at your office, and you're a Black person, it just serves as a means to intimidate and harass you. So for the fact that this guy went to ask for permission to sit under that tree, and the next day he found 3 black nooses, it really was an indicator that these white guys had it out for you. They were trying to intimidate you and be violent. So what they did was these guys came together and they beat up that white guy. Now guess what? For a beating, for a fight that happened in his school, he didn't die. What happened was just they had a fight over the news that they saw and alleged racial comments that they heard. This guy was sentenced to 10 months in prison. And people wondered, why would someone get sentenced 10 months? Why would a black guy get sentenced 10 months in prison for beating up another child or for beating up a student? And people began to protest. There were talks about people traveling, spending about 21 hours on bus rides to go from city to Jena, Louisiana, to make sure that they protest that, this really was uncalled for, simply because he was black. And this guy is white. So that's why he's getting 10 months in prison for a school fight. So it really was a big one. Thousands and thousands of people, they said between 15,000 and 20,000 protesters marched to ask for, these 6 guys to be freed from prison?
Yeah, they were called the Jena 6, happened in Louisiana, I believe, in 2007. And yes, there was the racial tension. There was also the news, like you mentioned. They definitely did beat up, this the white kid, and they didn't deny it. But I think one of the challenges that's emerged was, first of all, like you mentioned, this is a fight in school that shouldn't have gone that far. And also because they were the first charge that was placed on them was attempted second-degree murder,
yes.
Which a lot of people thought to be very unfair because it had happened other times. People had gotten into fights that they didn't necessarily need a second-degree murder charge, and of course the kid didn't die. So there were all of those conversations, and two things. If you remember also the movie When They See Us, that was really popular about a year ago. That's one of the things that was also, it's a very, very similar situation of how racial injustice and the legal system in the United States plays out.
So yes, that's what happened today in history, 2007 and 2003, civil unrest both in the US and in Maldives. When we come back from this break, we'll be taking a look at the forex regime of CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, how that relates to, the liquidity in Nigeria's market, how that relates to the depreciation of the Naira and how it's affecting manufacturers in the country. Stay with us.
This medal has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
When I start hearing the shoot of guns,
whatever I have done.
Every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
There has to be a decision point. The way your baby is presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, "You going to cut her? Are you going to cut her? Is it going to leave a scar?" And I said, am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?
No, I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken. Of you? Yes,
Yeah,
but
we
without
have
showing my private parts. I want to put it in my front room. And they said, you can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house. I said, well, it's my body and it's my front room.
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6.
So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
Then you
them
go
to.
home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. MASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Politics has helped shape the decision of the polity, from conspiracy theories to good old-fashioned comic politics.
These are the results of tomorrow's election. Okay, you have it already, Abi.
I am not hungry. If I need appointment, all I need to do is to start praising government.
Plus, politics will fill the polls of the country, from friends to frenemies, even strange bedfellows, to clones and stooges. We go beyond the rhetorics and the drama to analyze the story behind the story.
Let anybody come and say.
The moment we stop having charlatans occupy political offices, we will curtail hate speech.
Plus Politics, not just another political show. It's about putting you, the citizens, in the know.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Sorry.
Welcome back to the Breakfast with PlusTvAfrica. Our first major conversation this morning is on Nigeria's economy and the controversy concerning the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele and Aboki FX. And of course, looking back at other policies of the Central Bank of Nigeria that may have also led us where we are today. We're speaking with a writer of Tech Cabal, Mr. Olumuyiwa Olowogboyega. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Great to have you on the platform. So let's first of all start with your views on the last 72 hours or more, the last couple of days. The central bank governor, of course, calling for a fight with Aboki FX owner, and some of all that drama. And of course, the website also declaring that they are going to stop posting parallel market rates on their site. Quickly share your reaction to that, first of all, before we move forward.
I do think that it's been, like you said, a dramatic 72 hours. I think some of what has happened has been a little overboard. But if you look at it in the context of the fact that we have a central bank whose primary responsibility is to maintain a stable exchange rate, and they've increasingly had difficulty doing that since around March, then you understand where some of the, I don't want to say desperation, or you understand where some of the drama has come from. I've said, I think in the last couple of weeks, that I do think that some of the CBN's policies, while they may be idealistic, they're a little misguided. I'd say misguided, pretty tough choice of words, but I'd say misguided because on paper, they expect the market to behave a certain way, and they expect individuals to behave a certain way. But we all know that theories do not always just play out very neatly in reality. So yeah, that's my view of the last 72 hours. I think some of it has been some desperate action on the part of CBN, has been them trying to clutch at straws, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
So the CBN governor has basically accused the owner of the platform, Mr. Adedotun, of illegal forex trading, that they buy, dollars with naira, they hold sway, and then they try to manipulate the markets. Let's talk about the possibility of Aboki FX as a website being able to manipulate the economy, regarding foreign exchange, nationwide. What's the possibility of that being able to happen?
The possibility of a website like Aboki FX manipulating FX rates long term is very, very small. Think about it like this. This is a website that mostly just does an aggregation of FX rates. For instance, if you pick up The Guardian this morning, you see that the leading story is that there's a backlog for FX demand of up to $2 billion. $2 billion. And you see that The Guardian, interestingly, quotes a market price rate of $1 to 570 naira. Now, Aboki FX is down. So where did they get those rates? So at the end of the day, everybody who lives in Lagos knows that if you walk to a Eko hotel, you'd find a couple of people who are willing to trade. Beyond walking to Eko hotel, if you walk down your house, if you go anywhere, you'd be able to find people who are quoting rates for you. So the thing is that the parallel market, unlike the CBN's, the NAFEX rate, unlike the I&E exchange window, the parallel market is not one person. It's a bunch of people, right? And the prices on the parallel market respond to the macroeconomic conditions in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to have a situation where all these people can come together and collude, right? So Aboki FX offers a pretty simple service. They simply aggregate the prices. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. So I do not think that Aboki FX manipulates the prices. I think in giving that narrative, we just give them too much power, and that's not what it is.
All right. One other thing, aside Aboki FX now, the general discussion concerning Nigeria's exchange rate and why we've continued to struggle. People will always mention the laws of demand and supply, foreign direct investment, and some of all of that. But something else that I think is hasn't also been spoken about is the fear that people have in investing and bringing more influx of dollar into the Nigerian economy. Can you share with us what you think the CBN has gotten wrong in being able to drive more foreign investment into the country? Are there certain policies that have scared investors? Are there, certain positions that the CBN has taken, and maybe the current administration has taken, that has made that difficult?
Absolutely. If you looked at, so Bloomberg published an interesting news report a few weeks ago, citing that Unilever, a multinational, couldn't get dollars that it needed. MTN Nigeria, when it wanted to pay dividends to MTN Group, couldn't get dollars available for over a year at the official rates. So what we have is a central bank governor who believes that controlling liquidity is the solution to the problem. But the flip side is that when you control access, in that way, people also cannot put money in, because the reality is that they cannot take it out once they bring the money in. So I do think that we should have a clearer, more meaningful FX regime. Right now, I dare say that the FX the market in Nigeria is broken. So we need a situation where we sort of just can sit down and redo that all over again.
Okay. We have now been joined by another analyst, is Mr. Nick Aguli. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
And thank you very much. Good morning.
Okay. So it seems a bone of contention, in Nigeria's economy in the past few hours really has been our foreign exchange rates. And the CBN is accusing Aboki FX of manipulating the market to the way it is now, trading at over 500 naira to a dollar. From your own standpoint, what would you say are a combination of factors that actually determine the rates?
Thank you very much for that question. You see, we have a unique situation in Nigeria where something that is very straightforward, we complicate it, we make life very difficult. It's as if, as a country, until we make things hard, we don't like it. I live in the UK. Nobody talks about foreign exchange in the UK because we spend pounds. But if you want dollars, you get the dollars. If you want any currency, you get the currency. It's not a big deal. It's not something that occupies national discourse. In Nigeria, it has become a big thing. You know, this is what we're discussing now. And the simple fact is this. The dollar is a commodity just like yams you buy in the market. And the price of the dollar is determined by the factors or by the forces of demand and supply. So long as the naira is chasing after the dollar, the price of the dollar in relation to the naira will continue to be high. There is nothing the CBN governor can do about it. If he likes, he can empty the entire foreign reserves of Nigeria into the FX market, and the dollar will still continue to be high. Why? Because the naira is chasing after the dollar. And these are a few instances I will give you. A few weeks ago, we discussed the issue of Nigeria setting fire on the gas we produce and then going to import gas. So when you go to the gas market to buy a cylinder of gas, you pay naira to the dealer. But the dealer needs dollars to now go to the US and import the gas. The same thing with petrol. We sell crude oil, but we sell petrol at the station in naira. And then we now need dollars to go and import petrol. We need dollars to go and import food, import pharmaceuticals, import the vehicles that we drive. So long as we are needing dollars to go and buy these things, there is nothing that will make the naira to be strong against the dollar. There's nothing. Not even angels, when they come from heaven, that can make the naira to be strong against the dollar. So fundamentally, instead of the CBN governor fighting to strengthen the naira using our foreign exchange, foreign reserves, the thing that Nigeria needs is to go back to the fundamentals. We don't have electricity, and because of that, our factories have closed. So when you see a Nigerian, the clothes he's wearing, the shoes, the food he's eating, the car he's driving, the medicine he's taking, the petrol in his car, the gas in his kitchen are all imported. And for you to import these things, you need to go and buy the dollar. So long as you are chasing the dollar to buy it, it will never be weak against the naira. So these are the things that we need to do.
All right.
Go back to the fundamentals. Let us become that productive economy that we were in the 60s and the 70s. And you will see Nigeria's currency begin to strengthen.
Well,
by the way,
Mr. Gule,
if we were,
Yeah, well, I mean, so some of the points that you've made now, clearly show that it's not just the CBN governor's responsibility now. It goes way beyond him. There's a lot of, other policies of the current administration that may help the CBN governor to achieve his aim. So he may not necessarily be trying to get it to 1 naira to $1, but at least stabilize it. And I think that's what he has been struggling with. Make it, a particular figure and keep it there. I'm going to go back to Mr. Oluogboyega. There is, some narratives that have also come out over the last couple of days. And I'm going to ask you to respond to them. The Nigerian factor in some of all of this. People have pointed out that Nigerians, also have not helped the situation by being a little fraudulent. Applying for PTA and BTA, and then using those funds for something else. They've also pointed out the other fraudulent requests for foreign exchange that have been used to do totally different things. Are these requests and are these points big enough to be challenges with Nigeria's exchange rate? Or are they really just very, very, little and not enough to have the effect that the Naira is currently having?
Thank you for that question. I'm going to make a quick clarification before I answer that question, because when you introduced me, you said I was with the publication Tech Cabal. I'm not with the publication Tech Cabal. Write a newsletter publication. It's called Not a Deep Dive. So to your question, I would say that it's a little tricky to have a policy that allows for arbitrage, that allows people to take advantage and then call on the goodwill of individuals. It's not possible. It is doubly naive because the CBN has been here before. We did this exactly in 2016. When you have an official market rate and you have a BDC rate and the difference in the spread between both markets is 83 Naira, anybody who wants to make money knows that the sensible thing to do is to go and somehow get the bank rates and sell it at the BDCs. It's not legal, but what you have done is to incentivize people. We've had different economic conversations in Nigeria several times, and it feels like the big lesson we should always learn in Nigeria is that bans do not work. You have to quite understand how to incentivize people to do the right thing, one, disincentivize people from doing the wrong thing, number two. Unless those two things happen, you will not put policy down on paper and tell people to ignore the opportunity to make easy money because of patriotism, when they know that other people are doing it and getting away with it. So when you understand it like that, we need to go away from this narrative of, I have a problem with the idea of a strong Naira, a strong currency or whatever. What we should have is a currency that is determined by the free market. We should not continue this narrative about exports and now how we're spending X and Y billion Naira on exports, because every time I hear those narratives, it is almost always the beginning of a policy that will lead to more poverty. Case in point, the border closure. Case in point, the decision in 2014 to increase the custom duty on cars. So what we should do instead is have a Naira that we don't need to maintain an artificial price for the Naira. It doesn't do anything for anybody. If you say that, if you insist that the Naira is 412 Naira to the dollar and nobody can buy it, it defeats the purpose. So what we should have instead is that price discovery should be able to happen. People, buyers and sellers should be able to decide on their own, how much do we want to buy this currency? So I would say that the CBN on its own, for its own part, has led to this crisis, right? Because if you look at up to March of 2021, if you track the CBN rates and you track the BDC rates and you even track the parallel market rates, they're pretty much almost going in the same direction. The difference is very, very small. At certain points, from 2014 to around 2019, the difference is maybe 4 Naira 85 kobo, right? So when you have that situation, and you decide, I still want to peg the Naira to an artificial price at which nobody can buy it. It's one of the two things. It's either you're deceiving yourself or you're deceiving the market. And if you're deceiving the market, the players in the market are also looking to make money. And then you put yourself in a quandary. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Okay, I want to bring in Mr. Agule, and then I also want you to answer the question. Mr. Agule, in July 27th this year, the Central Bank of Nigeria ordered that the sale of Forex to BDCs in Nigeria had been suspended, and also the processing of their licenses also had been suspended. And we know that just a few hours after that, we saw depreciation of the Naira, and it continued until where we are now. So the CBN, in the person of Godwin Emefiele, had said that the reason why they had suspended the sale of Forex to BDCs was because they had used themselves as a conduit for illegal transactions, and that if anyone wants to buy Forex, they can go and go to the banks who have now been mandated to do that. So, Mr. Agule, what role would you say that played, the suspension, of BDCs? What role would you say that played in, deciding what the market is saying now? Mr. Agule first, and then Mr. Ologboyega.
Before I answer your question directly, let me just say that, Nigeria, we carry out our governance in very myopic and, will I even say, timid ways. There is no need for a CBN governor to be wading into the foreign exchange market. Like I was telling you, in the UK, I can take my debit card, my pound debit card, put it into an ATM, and select which currency I want. Is it pound, dollar, or euro I want? If I select euro, the ATM will dispense euro into my palms. That is how simple foreign exchange is. You know, like my co-panelist said, the exchange rate that will eventually be used to convert that euro that I got to debit my pounds account is as determined by the market through the laws of demand and supply. In Nigeria, we have big time foreign exchange earners. I can tell you some of them. Number one, the oil companies. All the upstream oil companies in Nigeria, and I work for some of them here in Nigeria, they earn their revenue almost entirely in US dollars. That's what they sell crude for. But they need Naira to pay staff salaries, to pay some of their local costs in Naira. So they can put their dollars in the market looking for Naira. You have the embassies. You know, you have the international organizations that are being funded from their headquarters in Nigeria with dollars. All these people have dollars. If only the government will allow an interplay of those with dollars looking for Naira and those with Naira looking for dollars to interact in the market. In the same way, I go to buy yams in the market. If I go today now to buy a cow in the market, the government is not there fixing the price. I am buying that cow based on the laws of demand and supply. And because there are more cows in Katsina, I will pay less price for a cow than I will pay for a cow in Lagos. Because there are less cows in Lagos. The government is not bothered about that. But in Nigeria, the government now came and created an unusual situation of having two markets. There is the so-called official market and then the parallel market. This has now created the avenue for people to simply go to the official market, take dollars at 411 and come into the parallel market and offload it at 550. How can government create such an avenue for people to be rent seeking? So these are the things we are talking about. For me, if you ask me, my personal opinion is that the central bank should stop wading into the Naira. Let us have a single foreign exchange market.
Okay.
If the dollar now has to exchange at 1,000 Naira to a dollar, so be it. What is going to happen? At 1,000 Naira to a dollar, people will suddenly discover that a Corolla car that you are importing is more expensive than the Innocence motors that are being produced in Nigeria. And then they will start buying Innocent motors. And as they are buying Innocent motors, Innocent is very happy. He's expanding his factory, producing more cars. Other people are seeing Innocent making money, and they start coming into the car assembly sector. That is how you grow an economy. We cannot artificially be determining the value of a commodity, no matter what it is. And we are having this problem in petrol. We are having this problem in foreign exchange.
Okay.
And the Nigerian government has to take different steps.
All right, Mr. Agule. Mr. Ologboyega, yes, I do like that Mr. Agule is looking at the bigger picture regarding how it's not just, within the sphere of the foreign exchange, it's also, within the wider economy. So, Mr. Ologboyega, talking about the BDCs, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Clearly.
Yes, so talking about the BDCs, what role would you say the suspension of the BDCs have to play in all of this?
Again, we've been here before. We did this exact same policy in 2016. It led to the exact same results we're seeing. So what we're just saying is you're just transferring the problem from one end to the other, right? You see the BDCs, you see the banks. It's the same problem. And if you look at what the actual problem is that supply of forex to the I&E window has not even risen to pre-COVID levels, to 2019 levels. And so as long as that supply is not there, if you insist on the price and people cannot find it, they're going to go somewhere else where they can find it. And you have to remember as well that there are at least 42 banned items on the FX list. Those people also need to access forex one way or the other. They're still going to go to the parallel market. So I think that, again, just banning the sale to BDCs, again, it's just attacking a symptom of the problem. It's not attacking the problem in itself. We're simply not attracting enough foreign exchange inflows. We're discouraging FDIs with the rigorous ways it is to take money out of this economy. So the analogy that when we float it, it becomes 1,000, it makes Corollas expensive, and then people would buy innocence, it's almost laughable. That's not, and you say that that's how to build an economy. That's not how to build an economy, but I will not dwell on that. I'd simply say that price discovery needs to happen. I'm going to agree with Mr. Agule up to the point that price discovery needs to happen. The CBN needs to let the prices be determined, but that's about it. Yes. Right. So yeah, that's where I'd end it for me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm also going to let you go ahead and speak with regards other persons that don't seem to be, a part of this conversation. And that one person is the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed. She hasn't been mentioned in all of these discussions concerning Nigeria's economy and, the strength of the Naira. As the fiscal and monetary policies, there's so many different angles, that could, come into play here. But go ahead and share your thoughts on the role that she has played and where she may not have also stepped up her game in this discussion.
This is directly the CBN governor's remit. It's his direct remit. He gets to determine, he's responsible for FX exchange stability. So this is all his business. This is not on the Minister of Finance at all. So yeah, and in theory, the CBN governor is supposed to be independent up to some levels. So again, this is purely a conversation about the CBN governor. It has nothing to do with the Minister of Finance.
Absolutely. All right. Olumuyiwa Olowogbooyega, thank you very much for your time and for your views on this discussion this morning. Truly interesting. All right. And Nick Agule also. Thank you very much for your time and for sharing your views with us.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great day.
Have a nice day.
Okay, so we'll go on a break here, and when we come back, we'll be taking a look at another warning strike that Jehesu has issued to the federal government if it does not accede to their demands.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Welcome to your favorite program, The Moment of Truth, brought to you by the Citadel Global Community Church. Our God is a God of salvation, far above all principality and power, and might and dominion, that regardless of what happens in this season, you will escape. Say to your neighbor, there is no peace for the wicked. The lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting, but diligence is a man's precious possession. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might.
Moment of Truth with Pastor Tunde Bakare, Sundays, 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
For me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before you can believe that, good food is going to come out of that kitchen.
You can leverage on each other's spaces and, sell. We believe in Nigeria, right? We believe that Nigeria can get better. We, the youth, are the ones that can make it better.
And my products are proudly made in Nigeria.
Made in Nigeria, showing every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. and repeats on Saturday at 8:30 a.m.
Are you ready to party right from the comfort of your TV screen? The Rundown's here to save the day. From freshly baked videos to the classics to the youngins and dope conversations, all in one chart. We got you covered. Just tune in to The Rundown every Friday, 10:30 p.m. West African time. The Rundown. Let's turn it up.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 and they pay.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@PlusTvAfrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
A strike was scheduled to commence on Saturday, September the 18th, 2021. But healthcare workers have come together to suspend that strike and give the federal government a 14-day break, a 14-day ultimatum to go ahead and implement all the agreements that they reached in December 2020. And we're discussing that now with a doctor, Dr. Ifeanyi Kasme. He is a former spokesman of the Association of Medical Lab Scientists. Good morning, Dr. Ifeanyi. Dr. Ifeanyi, can you hear us? Okay, we'll try to reconnect with Dr. Ifeanyi there. But what we're seeing with Juhesu is something that has been dragging on for far too long. And they basically have gone on strike many times over the implementation of, the agreements that they had with the federal government December 2020. And that really seems to be the bone of contention. When will the federal government implement the demands?
Yeah.
Dr. Ifeanyi, can you hear us? want,
and clear.
Yes, I want you to first of all let us know, like put this on the table. What exactly is Johesu asking for, and what's the challenge with the federal government getting it done?
Thank you very much. I must posit that the most patriotic health workforce we have in Nigeria are members of the Joint Health Sector Union. Since after our meeting with President Muhammad Buhari sometime last year, and he did appeal that we
Yes, just following up on what he said, yes, the president did meet with Johesu and appealed to them that they should be more patient, more understanding with his government, his administration, that they were on top of the matter and that they would definitely make sure that all the demands are met. But the issues now came about when we have Chris Ngige come out in the media to make statements about according to him, saying that no doctors were being owed salaries, and the fact that the NMA came into the situation, and there was, there came to be a conflict between who should be negotiating with the federal government. Dr. Ifeanyi, can you hear us?
Seems it's a struggle with connecting with Dr. Kasmir Ifeanyi this morning. The conversation really is centered around what happens next with Johesu and the federal government. There, of course, have been the legal, aspects of it where they were seemingly ordered to go back to work. The NARD, of course, didn't respond to that. The Minister of Labour, like you mentioned, you just in the news, I think it was one of the stories that we took this morning, saying that their threat to go back on strike is unscrupulous or something like that. So, of course, all of these conversations really affect Nigerians the most, because it's Nigerians who get to be at the hospitals and have less medical workers attend to them. What will the next 15 days bring? And if the NARD is on strike and Johesu intends to go on strike also, it means that the whole healthcare system, is going to be on snail speed, and almost nobody working except private hospitals that a lot of people cannot afford to go to. So, what will be the federal government's approach? What is important? How urgent is that approach? Are some of the important questions. Dr. Ifeanyi, once again, can you hear us? Good morning.
So just to bring us up to speed with what's on the table here, they're asking for a review of the 5,000 naira hazard allowance. And I don't think doctors, feel that this is commensurate with all the work that they do, all the sacrifice, all the health risk, especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. They have to be in those hospitals, offer care to those who are suffering, and go back to their families. A heightened risk of, dying. There's been reports of lots of doctors who have passed on in Nigeria because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And, they have also come out to protest, these health workers and their unions, that, the families of these people have gotten no compensation from the federal government. So this hazard allowance is one thing that's on the front burner, in addition to salaries that have been owed these workers. And one question really that I have to ask is, how many more 15 days ultimatum would continue to be given? It's something we've seen time and time again. At the end of the 15 days ultimatum, what happens next? Another 15 days, another extension? Let's see what Dr. Ifeanyi thinks. Dr. Ifeanyi, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yes, please continue your train of thoughts on the strike and the 14-day warning.
Yeah, it's okay. We had actually issued, the Joint Health Sector Union had actually issued an ultimatum that had elapsed last week. And because the union is a very patriotic union that takes cognizance of the situation in the country, the COVID-19 pandemic, the economic challenges in the country. Anytime the government appeals to us, we would listen. But we have been made the whipping boy. The Jews have been made the whipping boy in the health sector, which is quite unfortunate. We issued an ultimatum, and the Nigerian Medical Association became very meddlesome. They had to start doing a rejoinder to the demands we had put out to our employer. One of the things that need to be put out clearly is that medical officers, like every other health profession or professional in Nigeria, in the employment of federal government, we are all employees. It is incongruous and out of place. It's quite nauseating for a fellow employee to be the one dictating the terms and conditions of work for his colleague at workplace. That's why we have issues here. Now, the point is that in 2018, we had a strike action, and the government invoked the no work, no pay rule. And till date, our colleagues have not been paid that money. Unfortunately, some other persons that went on strike were paid those outstanding money. Again, on the issue of the hazard allowance, we had made our position clear to government that in the past 20 years, and even before then, hazard allowance has been on a flat rate for all persons that are duly exposed to same hazard in same workplace. Unfortunately, government has not been able to be very decisive because they are being shoved up and down by Nigerian Medical Association. The current notice we have issued is because we had withdrawn the other one that had expired following the intervention of the Honorable Minister of Health, Honorable Minister of Labour, and I must give it to the Honorable Minister of Labour. He's been top-notch on as a conciliator. But what we are saying is that enough of the meddlesomeness of our colleagues in workplace. It is not up to them to dictate the conditions of our work. If they have issues with government, they should engage government on their points of argument and allow other workers negotiate their own terms and conditions with government. It's not a situation where you dictate what we get. Now, why we have given another 15 days after a expanded NEC meeting is because we have consulted with our stakeholders in the health workforce, and they do feel that government have not been able to listen to us. What is the issue here? We have the current salary scale, which was produced same time, secularized same date with the current salary scale. Unfortunately, because the other people are in political corridors, they've been able to get about 3 times review of the consolidated medical salary structure, but not even a single review. Whereas the memorandum of agreement we have with government does stipulate clearly that for every consequential adjustment on the comments, there shall be a reciprocal on the current salary structure. That is yet to happen. That is a major demand we're putting out to government, and we're saying that what is good for the geese is also good for the gander, particularly when it is predicated on an extant memorandum of agreement. That is exactly what we're asking. We're not asking for a pay rise. We're asking that, having reviewed the common salary scale 3 times serially, that a consequential adjustment be effected on the current salary structure, because a lot of other allowances are predicated on percentages of this consolidated basic. And so if you continue to up that of the other colleagues we have in workplace, while you keep our own at constance, you shortchange our members. Besides, it is not all about remuneration. Work conditions are there for healthcare workers. We're losing our members in their numbers following the COVID-19 pandemic because they are not adequately catered for. Government told us in 2020 that they have an insurance package, but I want to tell Nigerians that people are insured with their particulars. No health worker in Nigeria, as we speak today, has been insured with his definite particulars, which is a proviso in the Insurance Act. You cannot tell me you have taken insurance for 5,000 health workforce, and you do polarize the insurance for the individual beneficiaries. So these are the challenges we have. We are saying that it is important that government comes clean with us, review the current structure to bring it to tune with that of the comments. We are asking that government should pay us the backlog of the 2018 3-month salaries that they withheld following the industrial action, because they have had to pay other workforce. You see the way that dilly-dallying with invoking the no work, no pay for National Association of Resident Doctors. It is only in Nigeria, and I repeat, it is only in Nigeria that students can grant and collapse. I've been for more than 50 days now, health services, and that is because our government played into their hands.
All right, Dr. Ifeanyi, I beg your pardon. There's so much, obviously that you have, to pour out. But unfortunately, we're out of time this morning. we would have to very likely reschedule another conversation with you so we can look at the different angles concerning this conversation and what happens in the next 15 days if the government still fails to come or follow through with the promises made in the memorandum of understanding.
Of course, if government,
all right.
if government reneges
we'll have to wrap up here.
on the fulfilling the terms of
Dr. Ifeanyi, we thank you very much, but we have to continue this conversation another time. Maybe see how it goes for the next 15 days if the government gets in contact with you and what the outcome of this would be. Thank you very much again, Dr. Kasmir Ifeanyi, for your time. And we thank you for joining us this morning on The Breakfast. It's a beautiful brand new day, Monday the 20th of September. And we thank you for starting it with us. I am Anetta Felix.
And I am Osaogie Ogbonwa. See you tomorrow.
It for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Well, many thanks for joining us on Plus News Brief. I am Justin Akadonia. President Muhammad Buhari has arrived in New York for the high-level meetings of the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Buhari arrived at the J.F. Kennedy International Airport in New York at about 4 p.m. local time on Sunday. The president was received by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyama, Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment and the permanent representative of Nigeria to the United Nations, Professor Tijani Mohammed Bande. Other Nigerian officials on ground to welcome the President were Ni Adebayo, Minister of State Power, Gadi Jegdi Agba, his environment counterpart Sharon Ikazo, Director General of the National Intelligence Agency Ahmed Abubakar, and Nigeria's ambassador to the United States Uzoma Emenike, among others. Buhari would be the second head of state to address the high-level session of the General Assembly on the fourth day of the debate at about 9 a.m. local time on Friday, September the 24th, when he would speak on the theme of the conference and other global issues. The Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has urged the leadership of the National Assembly to reject a fresh request by President Muhammadu Buhari to borrow $4 billion and 710 million euros until the publication of details of spending of all loans obtained since May 29, 2015 by the government. President Buhari recently sought the approval of the National Assembly to borrow $4.05 billion and 710 million euros. On the grounds of emergent needs, the request was contained in a letter dated August 24th. In an open letter addressed to the Senate President, Ahmed Lawan, and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, the organization expressed concerns about the growing debt crisis, the lack of transparency and accountability in the spending of loans that have been obtained, and the perceived unwillingness or inability of the National Assembly to vigorously exercise its constitutional duties to check the apparently indiscriminate borrowing by the government. Meantime, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has reacted to the federal government's plan to source for fresh loans, saying borrowing to accumulate debt for the next generation is criminal. Speaking on the sidelines of an event in South Africa, Obasanjo noted that if the existing debt is left unserviced or unpaid, it might become a problem for successive administrations. While noting that borrowing is not a problem, the former Nigerian leader stated that that could be a problem and would be what one is borrowing for and the plan or capacity to pay back. Now, Nigeria's debts have continued to rise as the federal government seeks foreign loans to deliver key infrastructural projects. In other news now, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and its governors forum say a decision on zoning of political offices would be made by the party at the appropriate time before the party convention scheduled for October the 30th. The party and its governors forum stated this in separate statements issued in Abuja in reaction to Ebonyi State Governor David Umahi's comment on the issue of zoning of presidency by the PDP ahead of the party's national convention. Umahi has accused the PDP of not being ready to zone its 2023 presidential ticket to the south. Now, the PDP Governors Forum, in a statement by its Director General, Honorable C.I.D. Madwabum, said that the forum was outraged by Umahi, who left PDP for the All Progressives Congress, APC, attempting to turn truth on its head. Madwabum advised Umahi, who he alleged to have sabotaged the PDP in the 2019 presidential election in the state, to continue his role in the APC and leave the PDP alone. On the issue of zoning, Madwabum advised Umahi to face his issues in the APC and not drag the PDP and its governors into it. Now, the Northern Elders Forum says the North is in the process of rebuilding itself and is not prepared to play second fiddle in a nation where it clearly enjoys numerical strength. Director of Publicity and Advocacy of the NEF, Dr. Hakeem Baba Ahmed, said this while delivering a keynote address at the maiden Maitama Lecture Series organized by the student wing of the Coalition of Northern Groups held at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. The NEF spokesman added, quote, "If the majority of Nigerian voters vote for a candidate from the North and he becomes the president and somebody does not want to live under the Nigerian president, the person can leave," end of quote. Now, following the release of 10 more students of Bethel Baptist High School, the chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, Kaduna State Chapter, John Hyep, says ransom was paid by the church and the parents. The Kaduna Khan chairman says they do not need the government help, insisting that it should rather fix the insecurity in the country.
121 students of the Bethel Baptist High School, Kaduna, were kidnapped by bandits. Since then, the students have been released in badges. On Saturday, 10 more students regained their freedom after spending 74 days in the hands of their captors. Kaduna State Camp Chairman Reverend John Hayab says that 2 out of the 10 newly released students are in critical condition at a hospital.
There's no way children could have lasted 70-something days in the bush and come out and someone do not understand that they are not, they should be sick. So everybody should know that 75 days or 74 days in the wilderness, not eating good food, not having your regular bath, there's no way you cannot be sick.
Reverend Hayab speaks about the ransom paid to the bandits, explaining that they are still in talks to ensure the release of the remaining 21 students.
There has never been a release that was for free. Every release ransom is being paid. But this is purely the efforts of parents and well-wishers who used to come around to see how they can help to get these children back. We are still talking with the bandits, hoping that they will see reason and allow the 31 students that are still with them to come back. 21 students that are still with them, because as of last week, we had 31. When they released 10 yesterday, Saturday in the evening, we now have 21. So we are hopeful that something will happen.
For months, school has been shut down because of insecurity and attacks on the northern part of Nigeria. Adeola Adesoronu says it has led to poor school enrollment and reduction in education, which should be a concern to the government.
In the northern states, due to the banditry, like you mentioned, a lot of schools have had to, they've had to shut down because of the kidnapping and the insurgency and the banditry. Everything still boils down to the government. They need to work on the insecurity in the country generally and especially the northern states.
Evidently, education in Nigeria is under attack as parents, educationists, and concerned citizens feel the authorities can do better to protect students in schools. For PlusTvAfrica, Ngozika Ohaichesi.
Meantime, a clergy in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, Archbishop Emmanuel Parson has commended the military for rescuing Major C.L. Datong from the hands of bandits and calls for collaborative effort in rescuing Leah Sharibu and the remaining Chibok girls kidnapped over 7 years ago. While addressing the media after a consecration service held at his church, Emmanuel applauds the gallantry by the military and frowns at the slow pace in rescuing Leah and the remaining Chibok girls.
Chibok girl was a test to see if the nation will react, if the world will react. The nation refused to react, the world refused to react, so it has to continue. There's no way you can stop it. The only way to try and stop it is change of government.
Now, while challenging the misplaced priorities set by the military in government parastatals over the years, it said it is never too late for the government to, as a matter of urgency, prioritize the lives of every Nigerian, irrespective of position or status.
Conflict of interest. That's why the nation is messed up. All the family of the big guns are safe. It doesn't mean that they can't rescue those girls, but they are children of nobody. I'm sorry to say. One man for 1 month. Isn't it a shame? I feel like crying. If those children were children of relevant people, they will have been rescued.
Staying with security matters, the second batch of 6A-29 Super Tucano aircraft has departed the United States of America for Nigeria, and that's according to a Facebook post by the Presidential Assistant on Digital Media, Tolu Ogunlesi. The planes are expected in the country within 5 days. The full set of 6 were delivered on July the 22nd. The A-29 Super Tucano is a light attack aircraft which carries a variety of weapons. It will be used in Nigeria's fight against terrorists and other criminals in the country. Straight now to Anambra State, where gunmen have killed 3 policemen on duty in Onitsha. The incident happened around 9 a.m. on the Ukebu Eziweka Road in Onitsha. 2 other cops were injured during the shooting incident at the security post mounted by the police operatives. The operation vehicle of the cops was also set ablaze. A bystander said the gunmen may have been angered by the alleged extortion by the operatives at the security post. Now, when contacted, the State Police Public Relations Officer, Ikenga Tochukwu, confirmed the incident. Now, the office of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Ogu local government area of Enugu State has been burnt down. The arsonists allegedly climbed over the perimeter fence of the office to gain access. No group has claimed responsibility and no motive has been given for the action. But the separatist group, the Independent People of Biafra, has been on a campaign to boycott elections in the southeast. The latest incident brings to 3 the number of INEC officers set on fire in Enugu State in the last 4 months. Now, the chairperson of the Lagos State Judicial Panel of Restitution for Victims of SARS-related abuses has explained that the panel's suspension is to allow the members evaluate, collate, and make findings on the Lekki shootings of October 20, 2020. Retired Justice Doris Okwobi announced the break after the panel seated on Saturday. It was set up a week after the Lekki shootings to investigate cases of police brutality, especially involving officers of the former Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS. It was also to determine whether protesters were killed at the Lekki Tollgate Plaza during last year's EndSARS protests. To other parts of Africa now. The presidents of Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire have left Guinea after talks without a concise plan about the country's return to democracy or the freeing of President Alpha Condé. The leaders, who are representing the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, held talks with Guinea's new military junta on Friday and also met separately with Condé. The former president has been detained since his overthrow in a coup on September the 5th. Now, ECOWAS is demanding a return to constitutional rule.
Nous avons eu un excellent séjour à Conakry. Je voudrais remercier mon jeune frère, le président Doumbouya, et dire le président du CNRD, et dire que nous avons eu un excellent entretien. Le président Nana Akufo-Addo, que j'ai accompagné, vient de vous dire l'essentiel. Donc, nous avons aussi rencontré mon frère Alpha Condé, qui va bien, et nous garderons le contact. Merci au peuple de Guinée.
On a eu des entretiens très francs, fraternels, avec le colonel Doumbouya et ses associés, collaborateurs, et je pense que le CEDEAO, la Guinée, va trouver le moyen de marcher ensemble.
From Guinea now to Burundi, where a rebel group has claimed a series of mortar attacks launched overnight on the airport of Bujumbura, the country's economic capital. It happened a day before President Evariste Ndayishimiye was due to fly out for the United Nations General Assembly in New York. The attacks did not claim any victims or cause damage, but were heard as far away as the city center late on Saturday. The Red Tabara rebels tweeted that they fired several shells and had at least an hour-long exchange of fire with the military. And outside Africa now, France's defense minister has cancelled talks with her UK counterpart amid the row prompted by a new security deal between Britain, the US, and Australia. Now, Paris is angry after Australia signed the AUKUS Pact to build nuclear-powered submarines, pulling out of a major contract with France in the process.
A Franco-British Defence Ministers' Summit, due to take place this week, has been cancelled by Paris. That's according to sources familiar with the matter. France called off the meeting as its anger boils over about Australia's decision to scrap a multi-billion-dollar submarine order for an alternative one with Britain and the US. The sources said French Armed Forces Minister Florence Parly personally took the decision to drop the meeting with British Defence Secretary Ben Wallace. The French Defence Ministry could not immediately be reached for comment. The British Defence Ministry declined to comment. The scrapping of the $40 billion submarine contract has triggered a diplomatic crisis, with Paris recalling its ambassadors from Washington and Canberra for consultations. Australia plans to build at least 8 nuclear-powered submarines with US and British technology in a trilateral security partnership announced last week. France claims not to have been consulted by its allies, while Australia says it had made clear to Paris for months its concerns over the 2016 contract. French President Emmanuel Macron and US President Joe Biden will speak by telephone in the coming days to discuss the crisis.
From France, we'll move on next to the United States, where crews searching a national park in Wyoming for missing Gabby Petito have found remains consistent with the 22-year-old woman, but have not yet made a formal identification. Petito has not been seen since her boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, returned home from a months-long cross-country trip without her on September 1, as Laundrie has been named a person of interest in the case.
Earlier today, human remains were discovered, consistent with the description of Gabby Petito. Full forensic identification has not been completed to confirm 100% that we found Gabby, but her family has been notified of this discovery. The cause of death has not been determined at this time. We appreciate your continued support and patience as we work through this process. The vicinity around Spread Creek campsite will remain closed to the public until further notice. This is an active and ongoing investigation, so we ask everyone maintain distance from law enforcement personnel and equipment. I would like to extend sincere and heartfelt condolences to Gabby's family. Joe and Tara Petito and Jim and Nicole Schmidt. As every parent can imagine, this is an incredibly difficult time for the family and friends. Our thoughts and prayers are with them.
So can you please tell us why you led to that campsite in particular as opposed to...
It's an ongoing investigation.
And now to the Koreas. A North Korean military think tank has dismissed South Korea's recently tested submarine-launched ballistic missile as clumsy and rudimentary, but warned its development would rekindle cross-border tension. Both South and North Korea, which have been developing increasingly sophisticated weapons, amid stalled efforts to ease tension on the peninsula, tested ballistic missiles last Wednesday. Chief of the Academy of the National Defense Science, a North Korean state-run weapons development and procurement center, Jang Chung-ha, said media photographs of the latest South Korean missile showed a sloppy weapon that did not even have the shape of a submarine-launched ballistic missile. Now, Jang said the weapon had not reached a phase where it had strategic and tactical value and would thus pose a threat to the North, but questioned the intent of the South's ongoing missile development. Well, let's talk business now. A youth coalition, Arewa Youth Assembly, wants the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, to resign or be fired. The group's leaders addressed a press briefing where they called on President Muhammadu Buhari to sack Emefiele. They are alleging that his time in office has led to economic hardship brought about by his foreign exchange policies over the years.
Since he is deemed incompetent, totally out of ideas, and has become a burden to the Nigerian economic system. We ask that Mr. President sack Emefiele now before it becomes too late to reshape the Nigerian economy in such a way that it has a positive impact on the life of a common man in the street. Mr. Emefiele has constituted himself a mole in the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. Mr. Emefiele has demonstrated he is a cog in the wheel of progress by making rubbish of all Mr. President's lofty initiative aimed at bettering the lives of Nigerians, thus pitching many Nigerians against Mr. President.
If our leaders, who are the custodian of culture and our traditional institutions, refuse to do the right thing, there is nothing wrong if we take the on by the book. That is why we call for a sack. That since 2014 up to date, our Naira has continued to lose value. Our Naira has lost value. It does not have purchasing power as we speak today.
Now, the volume of Bitcoin traded by Nigerians in August rose to $44.4 million from a previous high of $38.5 million in May. This brought the total trading volume of BTC from January to August in the nation to $284 million. Now, this is according to data from usefultulips.org. Now, Useful Tulips combines data from two major peer-to-peer exchanges in the country, that is, local bitcoins and Paxful. Actual trading volume for the nation is estimated to be higher. In January, BTC trading volume was $31.9 million. In February, it was $31.9 million. In March, it was $33.6 million. Now, by April, BTC trading volume was $33.1 million and $38.5 million in May. In June, it was $34.7 million and $35.9 million in July. In April this year, Paxful said it had 1.5 million users. A recent report by Chain Analysis said that the cryptocurrency market in Nigeria and other African countries has grown by 1,200% in the last 1 year. The report added that Africa received $105.6 billion worth of cryptocurrency between July 2020 and June this year. In entertainment news now, Netflix's royal drama The Crown and Apple TV comedy Ted Lasso were the big winners at Sunday's Emmy Awards. The Crown's prizes included Best Drama Series, plus 4 acting wins for Gillian Anderson, Olivia Colman, Josh O'Connor, and Tobias Menzies. The Crown's victory in the Best Drama Series category is not the first time a streaming service has won the top prize at the Emmys, but it does mark the first victory for Netflix. Anderson won for her portrayal of Margaret Thatcher, Menzies for the Duke of Edinburgh, and O'Connor for Prince Charles. Many of this year's nominated actors from The Crown left the show after its most recent series, including Emerald Fennell, who played the Duchess of Cornwall, and Coleman, who will be replaced as the Queen in the forthcoming 5th season by Imelda Staunton. Sports news now. It was a sad day for Nigeria's representatives, Akwa United, as the Nigeria Professional Football League champions were eliminated by Algeria League One champions CR Belouizdad. They failed to build on their preliminary round first leg advantage as they conceded 2 late goals in Algeria late on Sunday. Hosts CR Belouizdad showed resilience to overturn the 1-goal deficit they suffered in Nigeria in the first leg at the Omar Hamadi Stadium. Now, Akwa United tried to resist the threat of their hosts as both teams settled for a goalless first 45 minutes, but Hitchman Kalfala's effort in the 72nd minute broke the deadlock in Algiers, and Chemstin Neska's 84th minute goal sealed the ticket for the next round. Belouizdad will now face ASEC Mimosas in the second preliminary round after Cote d'Ivoire Giants defeated Senegal's Tenguet 2-0 on aggregate. And now to the Bundesliga, Borussia Dortmund's Erling Haaland scored twice, including a spectacular lob to guide his side to a 4-2 home win over Union Berlin on Sunday, which lifted them to within a point of leaders Bayern Munich and VfL Wolfsburg. Norwegian Haaland has now scored 7 times in the league this season, while taking his total tally to an impressive 68 goals in 67 games in all competitions for Dortmund. But it was not all smiles for the host after they almost squandered a 3-0 lead, allowing Union to score twice before Haaland's second goal settled nerves in the 83rd minute. Now, Dortmund's 3rd league win in a row lifted them to 12 points, one behind leaders Bayern Munich, who trashed VfL Bochum 7-0 on Saturday. And that's the news brief. For more, please follow us at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for watching. Plus Sports comes up momentarily. Stay with us.